Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
And welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I am Teresa Velardi, and I am so grateful to be on this radio network, Dreamvisions 7 radio network. And did you know that you can get this show on Alexa? All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Dreamvisions 7 radio network, and find me there. So I'm very excited to have with me several of the authors in the best-selling book, Mayhem to Miracles. And I'm going to introduce each one of them in just a second. But as we know, I really like to start my conversations on this network with a prayer. And I decided today that I was going to start with the Serenity Prayer, and then we'll add something to it. So if you just close your eyes for a moment and pray with me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I am grateful to be fabulous, blessed, and highly favored while living in my greatness, using my God-given talents and gifts with passion and purpose. I'm making a difference in the lives of others, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in my favor. It is with great gratitude that we all say, Amen.
Amen.
So when I got the invitation to write as an author in Conversations, and I also have a series called Conversations That Make a Difference, by the way, called Mayhem to Miracles. There was a series of books. The first one is Chaos to Clarity, and the second one is Crappy to Happy. And two of the three authors we'll be speaking today was also in Crappy to Happy. But this one, Mayhem to Miracles, really, let me show it to you again, is an amazing conclusion to this 3-book series. And each one of these authors has gone from literally mayhem to miracles at sometime in their life, as probably have all of you. So let me just introduce you real quick. I'm going to read some bios here, and then we're going to have a conversation. So Dr. Ann Worth is a Christian author, speaker, counselor, and workshop leader. She has a heart for animals and people, especially those in need of fostering, and serves the homeless and refugee communities in Dallas, Texas. And her mission is to champion the forgotten. She's written her own book called Call Me Worthy, which you can find on Amazon.com. Diane Vick is a COVID RN, anxiety and pain symptoms. She's a COVID RN nurse, okay? Anxiety, pain, and symptoms used to control her life. Holistic remedies, hypnosis, nutrition, and fitness helped establish a balance in her body to enable healing and relief. And you can thrive again. She has written her own book entitled, she'll tell us in a minute, because I forgot. Say it, Diane.
The Truth About IBS and Anxiety.
That's it. The Truth About IBS and Anxiety. And I'm sure she's going to talk about how all of our systems are connected. And then we have Charla Charpentier. Charla is a lawyer and a recovered alcoholic who shares a passion for writing, creative children's stories, a love for teaching, family, travel, adventure, and all of the world's amazing creatures, most certainly llamas. Charla is a mother of 4, an artist, a writer, and a poet. She created the Love Llama character and co-authored the Love Llama and Friends series with her cousin, Monica Kirkus. And Charla has 2 books, The Love Llama and Ned the Narwhal, the second in her series. So, Charla, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with you because I've read each of your stories, of course, and I am shocked at how much some of us have in common. We all have in common at one point or another in this story. So, Charla, you say your alcoholism and the ensuing mayhem were both progressive, but your childhood was full of codependency. Can you talk to me a little bit about that mayhem that went on in your life that precluded the miracles that happened in your life?
Sure. I think it was as a child not learning to create boundaries and to put myself first. I was always kind of putting others first and, being the peacekeeper. And so that led into kind of, then I found alcohol as my solution at the time to I feel like I could take care of, not really take care of myself, but be my true self, which is you're not your true self when you're drinking, but in my head, that's what I was thinking. So of course, when you're drinking, then that's going to cause all kinds of mayhem, whether it's, you're lying or, you're showing up to work hungover, just various things that started happening before the miracles started happening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I can relate to some of what you're talking about from the standpoint of being on the receiving end of some of the behaviors of the alcoholic in my life. So how did your using alcohol affect those people in your life? And what was it that that brought you to a point where you decided that you needed to do something differently?
Well, I was definitely unable to be present. I was full of anger, a lot of self-pity. I viewed myself as kind of this martyr. I could be very selfish, even though I thought I was a very giving person, and I was, but there were strings attached kind of thing. Like I said, I was a martyr. So when I have 4 kids, and luckily they were little when I quit drinking. I've been sober for over 3.5 years. But I could no longer, I wasn't present with them. I mean, they would want to play and I'm constantly saying, mommy's sick, mommy's sick. Like I'm hungover or I'm miserable, right? I can't even get out of bed. I don't even want to get out of bed. So that when I saw it affecting my kids, that was the impetus for me to finally get help. It wasn't so much for me. Now it is for me. But the first was just, as a mom, it was just affecting me as a mom too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, Anne, I'm going to go to you for a second because you, I know, are counseling people. Besides your own story, which I'll ask you about in a minute, do you see a lot of what Charla is describing in the families who you counsel who are either have alcoholism in their family or their history?
Absolutely. We are not present for other people. As with many drugs, and alcohol is a drug, we are looking for the next fix because life is too difficult. I've heard a joke that when an alcoholic, when a normal person has a flat tire, they call AAA. And when an alcoholic has a flat tire, they call suicide prevention.
Oh my goodness.
We tend to be on the dramatic side, and it's because we've had extreme things happen to us. And so, yes, we are caught up in escape, and that has a terrible effect. We're like a cyclone going through people's lives.
And I know some of your stories. So let's, because they are so related, let's talk a little bit about your situation and your childhood that ultimately led to your mayhem in your life.
That's such a big topic, but
let's talk about it relative to your story. I mean, you share something in here about when you were a little girl and a church experience that you had.
Yes, I was really terrified by God, by the church that my grandparents happened to attend. And I did not have good church experiences growing up, and it caused me to leave the church. And when you leave the church and you're a teenager, who do you hang out with? I wasn't hanging out with the church kids. So I learned a lot about a very different kind of life from the kids that I did hang out with. And I did not get sober until I was 40 years old. So I had a lot of experiences of behavior that I would never have done if I had not been drinking, and would not have been with the people I was with if I hadn't been drinking.
Mhm.
So it led to a lot of mayhem in my life and in the lives of other people.
Mhm.
And I can today say that I am a grateful recovering alcoholic, because it was in my recovery in a treatment center that I found my first inkling of a God that cared about me.
Awesome. Awesome. And that was a miracle, right?
That was a miracle.
That was a miracle. We'll get to more of that story in a second. Diane, I want to come to you. How I know that your situation is, your story is a bit different than these two ladies. You want to talk a little bit about how to find your way back to yourself with coming clean on what is part of your past. Can you talk about some of that? You said self-love, your story is called Self-Love Paved the Way. And I really was taken by, what Charlotte was talking about, and I know that Anne too, and myself, even with my situation, having lived with an alcoholic, and yours doesn't touch on alcoholism, it touches on something else, but the last thing that I was doing was loving myself. I was trying to figure out how to fix everything around me and everybody else around me. And so I had no idea how to really take care of love and take care of myself. But your story really accentuates how self-love paved your way to get through your mayhem. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And it's definitely a process. I would say self-love is something we need to learn how to do every single day. My story is about child abuse. My story is how I went from crappy to happy to finally getting the courage to actually speak my truth in the middle of a very difficult time for my family, which all unraveled this year. And I really had to focus on that self-love and those practices in order to work through those emotions that happened. Because I was not only grieving the loss of a cousin that had passed away, but also grieving that little girl that had lost her innocence, and that I was trying to heal from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very, very powerful journey to connect with myself and to find my greatness again through all the grief and all the emotional pain that happens as you begin to share your story, bringing me to this point where I'm actually sharing my story publicly for the first time in a different space than where I was last year.
Awesome. And and in the middle of all of this, what's going on in your life, your individual life, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and you are a COVID RN. So can you talk a little bit about how that experience, being a nurse and being exposed to people who have COVID? And I know that you ended up doing some telework with your nursing, but how does that fit into having to come to terms with who you are truly and what has happened in your world? And oh my God, in the meanwhile, there's this pandemic. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the pandemic actually made me go virtual from the beginning, where I would actually be the nurse that called all the patients that were sent home with positive results and kind of be that ear for them, that support system that they didn't have, because now they're getting these results maybe several hours, 2 days after their visit to the emergency room. So I was really their support system. I was there to give them, instructions. I helped several families that were having other people within the family that were getting sick and that were very ill. So I was not at the bedside, not exposed to the virus, even though I did catch the virus late in this year, but helping people work through all the fears, all the stress that COVID brings in. How is it going to go through our house? What kind of precautions do we need to take? And supporting them through that, while also making sure that I didn't absorb the stress that was coming through on these conversations.
Right. So let's talk about fear and stress for a minute there. Charlotte, I'm going to back to you. Stress in your life. Now were you an attorney working as an attorney during this time when you were still drinking and then ultimately made the decision to get sober? How did, well, I can only imagine what kind of things went through your head as a working attorney. And were you, how does fear and stress play into, you know, your past and how long it maybe do you think you would have stopped drinking earlier had you not had the stress and anxiety of being an attorney? I can't even imagine.
Well, I definitely was drinking throughout law school. And then as I began my legal career, and then I had 4 kids, so that took some time, and I wasn't drinking while I was pregnant because I was very nauseous during the pregnancies, thank God. But then, yeah, I was still practicing law when I decided to get help. And I mean, it was just another stress factor. I feel like, you know, I was putting myself into chaos often because that was what was comfortable to me. So actually, stress was more comfortable to me than peace. So I kind of kept creating that chaos and stress. And there are studies that have shown that attorneys do have a higher rate of alcoholism than other professions. And, you know, I think that does it makes sense because you use alcohol or drugs as a coping mechanism, an unhealthy one. But for me, it wouldn't have made a difference.
You don't think so?
I don't.
You know, the other thing about law school, I'm talking about your law school's experience for a second, because you convinced yourself and other people convinced you that law school was the most practical thing for you to do. But you had a very different opinion on where your heart lies. And I know where your heart lies because I see it in the drawings that you did that started out the Love Llama series. So how do you go from, I really want to be an artist, to law school?
Well, I come from parents, Indiana, where it's very working class, hardworking, you know, American dream. My parents did that. They came from nothing, worked really hard to give my brother and I, you know, a good life. And it wasn't instilled in me like you should pursue the arts. You should pursue, you know, creating a children's book. Not at all. But I will say that I was argumentative growing up, and very passionate and empathic about the rights of criminal defendants. I just wanted to help, right? So it did, in that sense, it made sense. Law school kind of made sense, but it still didn't really fit my personality. And the arts thing, what I'm doing now, author sketching, feels really good. But I would not have done that had I still been drinking.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have pursued that.
Yeah. And one more thing, and this we have in common, very much so in common. I was an insurance agent for 20 years, and that's where I felt useful in the space of being an insurance agent. I let go of all my art for the longest time. And it was when I divorced my husband that I finally opened up my pottery studio and started to really expand my writing capabilities and whatnot. But so I don't know about you, but I stood at the altar and I heard God say to me, Teresa, don't do this. And when I read your story, I saw that you had a similar experience. Did you, like me, want to hightail it out of the church?
I mean, I hate to view it that way because obviously, you know, I have my 4 kids. I learned a lot. I co-parent with my ex-husband really well. But I had no business getting married at that time.
And that's what I'm relating to right here. And I'm saying,
Yeah.
and my biggest gift from my marriage is my son too. So I totally relate to you. Totally relate to you. So yeah, but I thought that was pretty interesting that we had very similar experiences at the altar. And let's talk to you a little bit about some of your stuff that went on in your world. Let me see here where we are. I got to watch the time. We're going to break in 3 minutes. So you say One of the things you said is I wasn't an alcoholic, a drug addict, a love addict, or any other of the labels that were put on me. Trying to kick Xanax was another one of those efforts to do something right. So we want to talk about maybe something that I say, like, denial is not a river in Egypt.
Yeah. Well, people have different drugs of choice, and alcohol was kind of far down on my list. You were speaking about stress causing drinking, but I had this sense of emptiness in me from childhood, and I was trying to fill it up with anything and everything. And since God was not on my radar screen, I was trying to fill myself up with things that were never, ever going to give me what I needed. But it was kind of ironic that I was trying to detox from Xanax, and I had such a terrible reaction to that I ended up in treatment. And so that's where that comes from. While I was in treatment, they said, well, you're addicted to alcohol, to prescription drugs, to food, to love addiction, which is, that trying to find the right person. I mean, you name it. And they said I was addicted to everything. And I was not ready to surrender and to say I was powerless. I was not going to do it. And certainly I was not going to be surrendering to God, this God that I thought of as a mean old man. So I had a real dilemma, because without surrender, without letting God heal me and touch me and save me, I was going to die. I would have been dead if I had not had that treatment experience.
Yeah, which we're going to get to when we come back from our break in just a second. And I want to just recognize Diane for a moment, because I'm sure that there's some things that you can add to this conversation from the standpoint of running from what was going on, what had happened in your childhood. So when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with these three great ladies and talk more about their miracles. You're listening to Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network. I'm Teresa Velardi, and we will be right back.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavis, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through Mayhem to Miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
That breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow. I love it. If only every minute of every day could be that simple, huh? Diane, I want to go to you because you say you knew you had to tell your story to support children facing hardships they also couldn't emotionally comprehend, especially when they emerged from being, we emerged from being locked down, and many of them were with their abusers, and that you're there for them. The other thing is how do you work up the courage to share a secret you've held for 38 years? Tell me, what exactly, how do you, courage is I wrote something in I think the first book, Chaos to Clarity, that courage is fear that said its prayers. How do you work up the courage to tell your story and then really stand firmly and powerful in your conviction to help others?
Number one was always getting out of my comfort zone, jumping before I was ready. So the first book, Crappy to Happy, was jumping in before I was ready. Basically pushed me to then have to tell my story because now it's on paper. And, each book has been that for me, has been jumping through until before I was ready. So this one was like, I really had to share how important it was to change my perspective. And it took me 11 years of self-love to find the way, and how I realized this quote and how powerful it was for me, because these ladies were talking about their addictions, right? My addiction was to pain. My addiction was to sadness and grief. My addiction was to grieving that little girl, that loss. But I had kept the secret for so long that I had to push myself to get out of that uncomfortableness. And the quote that I've always used to remind me of how powerful it was is a quote by Wayne Dyer. It's, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that was a process of changing that view and that perspective on a daily basis so that I would not get stuck in that pain and that stress, and be able to tell my story and not be trapped in that room anymore. Because every time that I experienced a judgment, a criticism, a conflict with someone, it would place me back in that room, re-experiencing all those emotions. And I call it the red room because for some reason in my head as a little girl, it was a red room. And a lot of ugly things happened in that room. And it actually took me to push through and actually do a treatment this summer so that I would no longer experience that emotional reaction anymore, so that I can share my story and help children that have experienced something similar, because it's really something difficult for people to talk about. And a lot of judgment comes into play when family members even hear your story and know that you're going to be saying this publicly as to how it's going to affect them, instead of thinking of you as the one that was actually the victim and that needs to heal.
So let's talk about that for a second. You actually let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, in Crappy to Happy. What was your family's reaction to you having written this story? Did they know you were going to be in this book? Did they have, how did that come to pass?
My parents knew that I was in the book. They didn't know what I had written in the book. I had some conflict with other family members that I showed the book to, and, got feedback as to how it would affect them and how it would affect other people in my family. And I said, it's not your story to tell. It's my story to tell. And it's time for me to tell it, because if I don't tell it, then I can't heal. And that's my journey. So you need to understand that obviously a lot of physical pain happened. I had tons of injuries. I had emotional roller coaster this whole year as all these challenges kept coming into play. But in order to be me, in order to be the creative person that I am, to be able to write and do all of these things, I needed to tell my story, because if I don't say what happened to me, then I'm not being truthful to myself and honoring my healing journey.
Right. And you had a similar experience when you released Call Me Worthy, right?
Yes, I did. But I also had a wonderful experience of my cousin, who's just about 5 years older than I am. And when she read my book, Call Me Worthy, she wept and she said, I wish I had known.
Yeah. Yeah. You had some similar experience.
I waited actually until my mother and father had died. And one of the most wonderful things that happened for me in writing the book is my story became his story. It became the story of what God had done for me. But during the writing of the book, I realized I had not forgiven my father as much as I had tried in many, many ways to forgive him. But God allowed me to see my father through his eyes as one of his children who had lost his way. And it was so easy to forgive him when I could see him through God's eyes. So that was a blessing of, like Diane, it was so painful to go back and to write about it. You have to put yourself back in the experience, which is very traumatizing, and feel the feelings of that little girl. But gratefully, I'm a big girl now. So
yes. It's these stories that are in this book, and I'm just thinking about how vulnerable we have to make ourselves in order to be able to share the other side of this, share the experience of what we've gone through, whatever, I have addictive behaviors myself. I struggle with food, and when I lived in a situation where I was married to an alcoholic, which only fed my food addiction more. And then I whatever happens, but you have to go, firmly believe we have to go through whatever we have to go through to get to the other side and realize the miracles that come from the experiences that we have. Charla, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Now I can look back and be thankful, because I wouldn't have the growth that I've had without this journey, and I wouldn't be able to help people. So, in 12-step meetings, people would say I'm a grateful alcoholic. And I was always like, how can they be a grateful alcoholic? This sounds like an oxymoron, when I first and now I'm like, oh, I get it, because we've learned so much, we've grown, and we have this great connection with our higher power, who I call God. And without any of that journey before, I wouldn't probably have any connection to God. I wouldn't have all the blessings that I have now. And now I can give that back. What I've learned and gone through, I can help other people with.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part of the whole thing. Talk a little bit about more of the miracles that have happened in your world, Charla, from through this journey that you've been on. I can relate to all of you in terms of like coming through the stress, the anxiety, the fear, the experiences, the looking over your shoulder, who's going to see, all of that. I can relate to all of that. And I also know that some pretty powerful things have happened for each one of you, on the other side of the story. So the stories are mayhem to miracles. So let's talk a little bit about your miracles, Charla.
Sure. That's the fun part, right?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, wow. The fact that I can be a present mom now, I can be a good friend. I have healthy relationships. I've gone the route of the creativity path, being an author, writing a children's book series with my cousin, who Teresa, helped us so much with the Love Llama and Friends. None of that would have been possible without going through the mayhem. It really wouldn't be possible. But I'm so thankful that I'm now at the miracle part, and not stuck in that mayhem, which could have happened. And I relate so much to what the other women are talking about. I'm blown away. I'm just like, we all have so much in common. It's amazing.
Yes.
That's a miracle, being in touch with all of you.
Yeah. And it's such a blessing for me because I get to share and to know you each more on a deeper level. I have an ongoing relationship with you, Charla, and with Anne and Diana. I'm blessed to hear your story, and I am in awe of your courage in what you do, and how you support children and how you are helping others. I want to talk a little bit more about, just to go back to you for 1 second, Charla. You say in your story, I now put myself first and it works. What was the first thing that you did for yourself to put yourself first? Because I'm sure that there are a lot of people listening to this who are, especially at this time in the world, making sure everybody else, just like every one of us did, making sure everybody else is okay and putting ourselves at the bottom of the list. And there's so many people that say, when the oxygen mask falls from the airplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and everybody else can wait. And yeah, that's okay. But what about in the day-to-day? How did you first come to the space where you recognized that you had to take care of Charla first?
Well, I basically completely fell apart and could no longer even take care of myself. I really couldn't even get out of bed. So at that point, I was juggling a lot, and finally everything crashed. I dropped everything, right? So the first thing I did to really put myself first was going into recovery to get sober. And that taught me, I learned so much about self-care. I keep learning about it. It's ongoing. It's amazing to me how hard it is. It's so hard, it sounds like for the other women too, it just does not come naturally. I think it's a society thing, right? Where, especially for women, we're supposed to be super women and at the risk of ourselves. Right? We're always at the bottom of that list. So I try to practice self-care now. It's still hard for me, but I definitely want to teach I have 4 kids, as I mentioned, 3 of which are girls. And I want to make sure, especially with the girls, that they put themselves first and their own care first, which equals loving yourself, which is something that I've struggled with too. And now I do love myself, and I know God loves me. So.
Yes, indeed. Diane, let's go there. Let's talk a little bit about how you encourage people women especially, to love themselves and their self-care. Charla, you said you were juggling. Diane, you talk about juggling in your story. So let's talk about some of the things that you teach people to be able to have a self-care routine and things that you do in order to be able to teach women to love themselves.
Yes, agreed. It is essential for all of us to do that. I'd say we'd start with just the basics when we're brushing our teeth, when we're brushing our hair, when we're washing our face. It's letting go of that to-do list, that negative voice that's in our head, and really switching the wording. A lot of the things that I do when I do self-love for myself is, number 1, a prayer. So the Serenity Prayer that you did this when we started was great. You can just recite a prayer. You can find an affirmation that works for you that day. So I am worthy, Anne, everyone's worthy, right? But it's something that we have to learn to honor and cherish for ourselves. And I do these things as I'm looking at myself in the mirror. And I also use music. So one of the songs that I love is by Meghan Trainor. It's called Treat Myself. You can play that song, and it'll get you in that self-loving mood. But I think we need to do more activities like this for ourselves. I think we need to plan extra time. If we need to meditate before we leave because we know we're having a rough day, we need to make that extra alarm earlier so that we have that time to honor ourselves. And whenever we feel a shift, we feel a change in the way we feel, it's an opportunity to take a bathroom break. That's what I tell people all the time. You take a bathroom break, you do the EFT or the tapping or the breathing or whatever strategy I taught you, but you have to be the one that's aware of your body and what's going on. Because if you allow it to build up, then disease and illness happens, and then it's harder to reverse.
Mm-hmm. Talk 1 second about meditation for people who don't know how to meditate or have not experienced being able to get quiet in order to be able to meditate. What's one tip you can give them to get started with a meditation routine before we go to break?
Definitely, I would say if you have trouble concentrating, would be looking at a guided meditation like on YouTube that actually has visual cues, relaxing scenes that you can look at, because that'll help you distract your mind from that negative voice and those different thoughts that pop in. Because I know some people do have that anxiety, or have someone guide you. So I do live meditations on Insight Timer. It's an app. You just download the app, you watch the instructors as they guide you into meditation. And it's a great way to learn face to face, kind of on a live like this, and listen to meditations and find the one that works for you, because it might not be the one you find today. Maybe it's the one you find tomorrow.
And what's the name of the app?
Insight Timer.
Insight Timer. Great tip. Thank you. We need to take a break. You're listening to Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network. I'm Teresa Velardi. We'll see you back on Conversations that Make a Difference right after this break.
Darkest hours to brightest moments, transformation from despair to happiness, and chaos to clarity. Real people, real pain, real healing. Life-threatening illness, death, abusive relationships, divorce, and overcoming addiction are challenges these men and women faced head-on. See how they emerged stronger and happier. Buy the new book, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change by Reverend Patricia Caginello and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available on sacredstoriespublishing.com and worldwide through Amazon and other retailers.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dreamvision 7 Radio Network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dreamvision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Thanks for coming back, and welcome back to Conversations That Make a Difference. I think that's a great way to start meditation. Breathe, relax, enjoy, and let life flow. So I just love that. And let's talk about your miracles. And if you could speak up a little bit more, that would be great for my ear that I don't necessarily have.
Hear me better? Can you hear me better?
A little more.
Let me see if I can. Now, is that better?
Yes, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking, as Charla and Diane were talking about how they put others first, the depth of my pain and shame were so great that I think I was always trying to take care of myself. And so I wasn't putting other people first. But I had to hold on to the belief that I could do it. If I just found the right meditation tape or the right therapist or the right book, things were going to be different. But I couldn't make things different. I could not feel worthy. Everything that I did really helped me. Recovery helped me tremendously. Therapy helped me tremendously. But it wasn't until I could really admit that I needed something spiritual. I needed, as it turns out, I needed Jesus to call me worthy. I couldn't do it. So for me, that was the key. And as I say, everything I write now, even this children's book that I'm writing on loss for young children, it's about how we can be healed. And one of the things is I could never be quiet. So my meditation was still very difficult. But we are mended in the quiet. That is not my quote. That's a quote by Gwendolyn Brooks. But how true that if I couldn't be quiet, I couldn't hear God. I couldn't hear that still small voice. And I couldn't know that he was there and he would take care of me. And I didn't have to try so hard. That just kept me caught in a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I think, that's so profound and so true, that if we don't get quiet enough to hear that guidance, that voice from within that we come to know to be God in our lives, to help us through the journey, it's fruitless. For me, I mean, I can get caught up in insanity at the drop of a hat, but you had a very profound experience that happened while you were, I have to tell you something. I reread your story this morning, and I got such a kick out of when you were going to you're going to recovery, you were going to a rehab, and you got off the plane, and it was hotter than Hades in there, and you said you expected to see a uniformed chauffeur, or at least someone with a crisp white shirt and a black tie holding a placard with my name. When I saw the hand-printed sign announcing my arrival was held by a lanky old guy in a straw sweat-stained cowboy hat and a scuffed cowboy boots, I was a bit miffed. I was like, okay, this is so you.
Well, that's what I say. I was very self-centered and empowered and felt like I deserved the best. And I mean, you're spending an arm and a leg to go to these treatment centers. And I just expected them to roll out the red carpet. And instead, they were about to take away everything, including my dignity that could be taken away. And that's what finally helped me surrender. I didn't have anything left. I thought I'd hit bottom before I got there, but I just kept hitting a lower and lower bottom until there wasn't any place left to go.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, not you, not Charla, not me, and not Diane did anything where someone else was physically harmed or killed. Thank you, God. But sometimes it comes down to like I know people in my life who even after having the accident that caused somebody else to be severely harmed, just a string of things that have happened, and ultimately one of the people that I know ended up dying themselves. But we never know what it's going to take for us to come to a place where we will either say with an earnest heart, help me, I can't do this myself, whether we're looking to a a program, whether we're looking to a rehab, whether we're looking to God, Jesus, the universe, whatever you call a higher power. I believe everybody needs one. And if you know me, anybody who knows me, you will hear me talk about God relentlessly. And for those of you who are listening, please interpret that the way that it resonates for you. But because I don't believe that we were put here on earth to do this by ourselves, do anything by ourselves. Otherwise, guess what? We'd all be on various islands around the planet and nobody with us. How much fun would that be? I don't think so. You know, so these stories, I have to tell you, this book is filled with incredible stories of people who have gone through what they've gone through, come out the other side, recognized with gratitude, eventually with gratitude, that miracles have happened in their lives. And, you know, Charlie, you said, people were saying they were a grateful alcoholic and you couldn't understand why they were grateful. And I believe that there is something to be grateful for in every moment of every day. The fact that we breathe still. And I will share this with you because I think gratitude is a huge piece of these conversations as well. I had somebody in my life who would just, lack of a better phrase, bitch and moan about everything. Everything. And there was something going on where she was just like screaming and yelling and carrying on. I said, stop. Give me one thing you're grateful for. I have nothing to be grateful for. What do you mean? How about the fact that you're breathing? How about the fact that you have a house, you have a roof over your head, you have people who love you, you have beautiful children and grandchildren and this and that. And in one breath, I gave her about 25 things to be grateful for. So for those of you who are listening, who think that you have nothing to be grateful for, life is hopeless, you know, we're living in a very, very trying time right now. And no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you believe, we all have to get through whatever we have to get through at any given moment. If you do it with a grateful heart, it will be a lot easier. Because in gratitude, tell me one thing about how gratitude has changed your life, Diane.
Well, it's right in the word orgasmic. So my word orgasmic, which is optimism, resilience, gratitude, magnificent manifestations, intuition, and kindness is all around gratitude. It's about being grateful every day. It's about writing down the amazing things that came to me. And you talked about miracles I didn't get to share, but my miracles are people that come into my life that have disappeared for a while. Now I have a best friend who's kind of gone for several years. I get messages from angels every day. I see butterflies. I see, you know, the magic in nature, and I really honor all of these messages. And I really wasn't open to them until the day of my cousin's burial, was when I really saw that yellow butterfly that came to me was my rebirth. She was like giving me the okay to say my story and tell me that it was going to be okay, that I was not alone. And that's something we always need to remember. We are not alone. We just have to be open to listen and to see it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I was going to go to your miracles too. So yeah, absolutely. Be open to be able to see it as well. And I think, you know, you're saying about the butterfly. I have this thing with butterflies too, and cardinals. Cardinals show up in my life as symbols of, they say that they're like visits from the other side, or they could also be, you know, God tapping you on the shoulder or giving you a sign that he's with you or whatever. But the butterfly is a symbol of transformation. And I love how you saw the butterfly that gave you courage to tell your story, because now you've blossomed into this person who can really help other people. And there are many who have gone through what you've gone through. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for saying yes to being on this program today.
Thank you for having me here. I was really honored.
You're welcome. Charla, how does gratitude play a part in your life?
Oh, it's so hard to like articulate because it's just in my soul now, in my spirit. Yeah. I try to instill my attitude of gratitude to my kids. And when I have them, we will often, like if we're eating dinner, I'll say, okay, let's think of, you know, everyone think of one thing that they're grateful for, or we'll go through the alphabet. So one day you get to say 3 things that start with the letter A that you're grateful for. And also when we go to sleep, then I pray with them, and it's usually about gratitude. And the fact that that's even on my radar to do that, and the fact that I can give that to my kids, pass on this gratitude thing. I mean, it's a game changer. It changed my life. When I can have the perspective of gratitude, life's good.
Yeah, indeed. You know, it's funny that you say A to Z, start the letter of the alphabet. On Facebook, I was playing for a long time the gratitude A to Z game. And I would do the same thing. 3 things you're grateful for or people that you're grateful for that start with the letter A. And then make a powerful statement, a positive statement about yourself, an I am statement. And you know what? I think I am going to start that again. Charlotte, want to do it with me? Anne, want to do it with me? Diane, are you in?
Sure.
All right. The site, I have a page on Facebook called Grateful Hearts. And you'll know it's me because the scrolls match my Teresa Velardi and the scrolling that you see on the banner for this show. So let's do that. We'll start in the morning. Okay. A. All right. And I'm grateful for you, Anne. You're my first A. Okay. So how does gratitude play a part in your life?
Oh, I said something earlier and I want to revisit it. I said I'm a big girl now. But the thing that I'm most grateful for is I'm a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that I am lovable, that was the biggest problem I had, is I had so much shame. I did not know I was lovable. And to know that I'm a child of the living God that loves me and nurtures me. And sometimes in my meditation, I think about myself as a little bird in a nest with a big wing that is over me, to protect me. And I just have so many wonderful visualizations of being a bird or a little rabbit, or just being so safe and protected. So, that's what I'm most grateful for. And then I just consider everything a gift. Mm-hmm. And I woke up Sunday morning and I'm really wanting to experience life as a Sabbath keeping, setting aside time for God. And hopefully that will become how I live my life. But before I even got out of bed, I could think of 25 things I was grateful for. Mm-hmm. A good night's sleep, a rainy day, warm water to take a shower. I mean, it was just endless. And so I think that just being aware of what we have, I have so much, and I had it all the time, but I could not experience it for this veil of shame and guilt that weighed me down. So I'm liberated. I'm a little bird.
You are. And I'm grateful for you in my life, all of you, every single one of you. We have to close in a minute, but I want you to, Anne, tell us the name of your story and how people can get in touch with you, please.
Call me worthy.
And in the book,
Dr. Worth.
Amen. All right. So the story in Mayhem to Miracles is called Miracle Maker, correct?
Maker.
And how can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Dr. Ann Worth author.com.
Thank you. Website. Awesome. Charla, how can people get in touch with you? What's the name of the story in your book, and how can they find your series?
In the book, it's an alcoholic's progression from mayhem to miracles. You can reach me through the Love Llama Gmail. So it's the Love Llama, 2 L's for love, 2 L's for llama @gmail.com. And then the Love Llama travels the 7 continents, and then the Narwhal voyages 5 oceans. We have a website, www.thelove, 2 L's, llama, 2 L's, and friends.com. That's it.
Great. They can find you there. And Diane, how about you? The name of your story, the name of your book, and how people can get in touch with you.
So my story was Self-Love Paved the Way. My book is called The Truth About IBS and Anxiety, and you can access all my links on my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Diane Vic, DIANEVICH.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much. This hour has gone by so crazy fast. And I want to leave you with this note. Sark is somebody that I absolutely love to follow. Her name is Susan Ariel something Kennedy, and she goes by Sark, S-A-R-K. And you'll know her if you see her colorful books. And I ran across something that she had said today as I was preparing for this show. And it says, if you let yourself be truly seen, then you can be truly loved. And so I thought I would leave you with that thought today as we conclude another episode.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our producer Rachel and to our station owner Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.